Today on Investigate TV Plus, pedestrians in peril as thousands are killed each year.
You got elderly, you got children, you got disabled people. When is it going to be enough?
We take an in-depth look at what's causing the casualties.
This is a man-made problem. It's also a problem we can solve.
And the steps to make city streets safer.
Plus, a life-altering decision following a landmark ruling.
I called my gynecologist the day that I read that to get a consultation for my appointment.
Why thousands more men and women in America are choosing to take a permanent step.
I feel an immense sense of relief knowing that I can't get pregnant.
Then empowering lives one page at a time.
That just helps so many people access books that can't.
How a box of books behind a bike is inspiring a sense of belonging.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. Crossing the street in some parts of America has become a dangerous decision as pedestrian deaths hit a 40-year high. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Since 2010, deaths increased a shocking 77%, peaking in 2022 at nearly 8,000.
2023 saw a drop in pedestrian deaths, but it's still nearly 1,000 more than 2019.
There are several factors that create the deadly situation for pedestrians. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, a Governor's Highway Safety Association report says a steep drop in traffic enforcement has enabled an increase in dangerous habits, including speeding and driving impaired.
They realize that most officers are doing the patrol function and traffic enforcement is kind of fallen by the wayside.
At the same time, the report finds roads are designed to keep traffic moving quickly instead of at slower speeds, which are safer for people walking.
A lot of them tend to be wider, more lanes. People feel with the more open space, they can drive faster.
It's a problem found in Phoenix, Arizona, which ranks among the deadliest for pedestrians in the U.S. But the city has vowed to make changes that prioritize their safety.
Investigative reporter Amy Cutler takes an in-depth look at the solutions that can save lives.
For most of us, the morning commute is routine, maybe a little stressful, but not life and death.
What's it like trying to cross this intersection?
Disaster area would be putting it mildly.
That's how Patrick Beck describes crossing Indian School at 67th Avenue to get from the bus stop to the Fry's where he works. It's one of the city's high-injury network intersections, meaning it's flagged for how many serious and deadly crashes have happened here. Phoenix data shows between 2019 and 2023, 2 people were killed, 116 injured.
I've seen people get hit, almost get hit. You got elderly, you got children, you got disabled people. When is it going to be enough?
Patrick already survived a car hitting him. 5 years ago, as he crossed 7th Street north of Camelback, he was in the crosswalk, and the driver never stopped.
The driver cut 4 lanes of traffic, slammed into me, launched me.
He's now left with a scar after doctors repaired his shattered ankle.
It's 17 inches of screws holding it all together.
His wife Brenda says drivers are the problem.
They don't pay attention to you. I've been almost hit numerous times.
Numbers back up their experiences. City data shows pedestrians are involved in 44% of all deadly crashes in Phoenix.
Every person is a story.
Jorge Riveros is an engineer with Phoenix's Street Transportation Department. He says these troubling trends are why city leaders adopted Vision Zero back in 2022, a program aimed at preventing all traffic deaths.
Do you see 0 fatalities as a realistic goal here?
You know, it's a difficult question. I mean, idealistically, that's what we'd all love to see.
To help get there, the city leans on data and neighbor input. There's a community advisory committee.
Too often I hear families complain, I don't feel safe allowing my kid to cross the street. I don't feel safe allowing my kid to bike to school.
Ed Hermes chairs that committee.
We can't keep doing what we've done in the past in terms of our street design and just prioritizing speed over everything. I'm disappointed of where we're at right now. We need to do more.
But changes cost money. specialized crosswalk signals are about $250,000 each. When the city council voted to adopt Vision Zero, they approved $10 million a year to implement it.
2 years in, do you think the city is committing enough money to making this happen?
I think so, yes. I definitely believe from where it was to where it is now, definitely a lot more money.
Hermes disagrees.
This is a man-made problem, and because it's a design problem in large part with our street design, it's also a problem we can solve.
But in its own report, the city lists 7 projects to make roads safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. Only 2 are marked as completed. 2 are not complete, and tracking for the others hasn't even started.
It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take the political will to prioritize safety.
There is also an equity issue. Most of these high-injury networks are on the west side in poorer communities.
Those are all things that we look at and try to understand, are there higher rates of walking in these areas? Are there higher rates of, again, taking transit or bicycling?
At 59th Avenue in Indian School, the Becks are living this every day.
When you cross the street, what goes through your mind?
Is somebody going to run the red light? Am I going to be the next person who is seen on TV that has either died or been severely injured?
In addition to the $10 million each year, Phoenix officials say there are state and federal grants. To date, the city has received more than $32 million for different traffic safety projects. In Phoenix, Arizona, I'm Amy Cutler.
Just 20 minutes east of Phoenix, the city of Tempe adopted the program in 2020. They've added backplates to traffic signals and made speed limit signs larger to make both more visible. There's also big, bright yellow banners throughout the city. Small changes, officers say, can add up.
Having people think and act appropriately at intersections will ultimately save lives.
But is Vision Zero really the answer?
It started in Europe. Now more than 60 cities in the U.S. have adopted it, including Atlanta, Charlotte, and Portland. To meet its Vision Zero goal, Atlanta is using art to defend against drivers. More than 300 slabs of concrete have been painted into a bright mural to protect bike lanes. Officials say they are more durable than the existing rubber poles.
The Vision Zero network argues that while it takes time, cities that embrace it have made headway.
We are seeing that when communities really focus on the built environment, focus on prioritizing safety over speed, they are able to observe some safety gains.
When preparing for the ACT or SAT, a tutor who understands your experience can make all the difference.
Oh, well, if she can do it and she looks like me, then, so can I.
Still ahead, we examine an approach to test prep that's helping students raise their scores.
But first, in the wake of a landmark Supreme Court ruling, how has that changed the conversation that you're having with your patients?
Well, you're seeing more patients come and want to talk about permanent sterilization.
Hear from women who say their permanent decision is for their future self.
You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel at Investigate TV. You can catch stories and full episodes.
June 24th, 2022, the Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. The result, sweeping changes to abortion access across the country, including severely restrictive laws in many states.
One development following the ruling, doctors have seen from both men and women an increased interest in sterilization procedures, with some even choosing to take that permanent step.
We spoke with 2 women who have made that decision and doctors who are helping patients navigate the new healthcare landscape. 2 months before that final ruling, it's May of 2022, and a leaked document suggested the U.S. Supreme Court was planning to strike down Roe v. Wade and the constitutional right to an abortion. Louisiana resident Laura Lee Heron was watching.
I called my gynecologist the day that I read that to get a consultation for my appointment.
Having had an abortion many years ago while in an abusive relationship, Heron wanted to make sure she wouldn't face another unplanned pregnancy.
And so if you know you don't want a child, this is the best way to prevent that.
Soon after, Heron received a bilateral salpingectomy, a procedure completely removing her fallopian tubes, a form of permanent sterilization. She was 31 at the time with no children. It turns out Heron was not alone. In the months following the High Court's decision, a JAMA Health Forum research letter published in April of 2024 revealed an uptick in the number of young people 18 to 30 turning to permanent sterilization. The research also showed during the period of June of 2022 to September of 2023, the rate at which women seeking tubal sterilization nearly doubled. And it's not just women. A study published in the International Journal of Impotence Research in February of 2023 revealed a more than 22% increase in vasectomy consultations after the Dobbs decision, compared with the same period the previous year.
We're talking about
Dr. Ralph Doderive is an OBGYN with Ochsner Health in Louisiana, one of a number of states with the most restrictive abortion laws. He said he's seen renewed interest at his OBGYN group in tubal ligations after the Supreme Court's ruling.
How has that changed the conversation that you're having with your patients?
Well, you're seeing more patients come and want to talk about permanent sterilization. That's the first part of it. And you're seeing people who really never want to have children, and they want a more confident procedure or plan so that they won't get pregnant. And it's not that people were using elective abortion for birth control, but in the back of their mind, it was still sort of a backup.
When the Supreme Court issued its ruling, 13 states had trigger laws automatically banning abortions. Hayden Sater lives in Idaho, one of the 13. She opted for tubal ligation.
Do you think that you would have done things differently without the Dobbs decision?
Oh, for sure. I don't think I probably ever would have really pulled the trigger on getting my tubes tied.
A decision that for some comes with regret. When a patient requests permanent sterilization, it's standard for doctors to consult them about regret. According to the National Institutes of Health, nearly 1 in 4 women who opt for tubal sterilization wanted to have their sterilizations reversed. Heron has no regrets about her decision to have the surgery.
I feel an immense sense of relief knowing that I can't get pregnant in the state of Louisiana, especially because they have been turning women away from emergency rooms. I feel really glad that I got this done. I just feel relief mostly.
Heron says she's sharing her story with other women and says she worries about what abortion restrictions will mean for their health and well-being. She had the protection of Roe v. Wade years ago, but today, others don't.
My heart breaks for them. I am so scared on behalf of these women who are in situations like I was in and cannot get out. When you have a child with an abusive man, he has an anchor to you for the rest of your life, and I think that that's just devastating for a lot of women.
For young women making the decision to get a tubal ligation, finding a doctor to perform the procedure isn't always easy. Dr. Francesca Vihaidanik is known as Dr. Fran on social media. This New York OBGYN has compiled a list of doctors across the country willing to help women who want tubal sterilizations. Over the last 2 years, Dr. Fran's list has ballooned to more than 2,000 OBGYNs from across the country.
Still to come, building community with books. See how a library without walls is transforming lives.
But first, changing futures with exam scores.
I experienced it firsthand, having a 4.0 but having a very low test score.
How a personal setback inspired a business benefiting students nationwide.
Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to Investigate TV Plus on all social media platforms. College entrance exams help gauge a student's readiness for the next level of education.
But critics of the test say they can magnify inequality as white students consistently outperform black students. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, in 2023, the average SAT score was 1028. White students typically scored higher, while black students scored more than 100 points lower. To help close the gap, a Washington University graduate started an organization that pairs students with tutors who look like them.
Reporter Steve Harris explains how the program is preparing these students for college.
Malay Ellis wants to be a pilot, and Mila Hunter wants to be a doctor. And for those careers, they're going to need to go to college. And as high school juniors, that means those dreaded three-letter tests.
I've taken the ACT before, and I was definitely underprepared going into it my first time.
I mean, when you look at ACTs, we gonna be transparent. A lot of our African American students, they shy away from it.
Black students really have a tough time with standardized testing and performing well compared to other racial groups.
Angelica Harris knows all too well.
I experienced it firsthand, having a 4.0 but having a very low test score.
She designed her own test prep program and took her score from an 18 to a 32.
I then was offered over $1.5 million in college scholarships.
After graduating from WashU with 2 degrees and a master's in computer science, she decided to stay in St. Louis and share the program she created. That's when Top Tutors for Us was born.
We connect specifically Black and brown high school students with tutors who look like them at top universities.
Tutors like WashU student Kira Kaba.
All the students I had, they were really interested in learning the material and they took really well to the material. So it was just a really rewarding experience.
Now there is a workbook and a curriculum, but the students meet with the tutors virtually. Makes it really easy and convenient for everyone. So what about our future pilot and doctor? Well, having a tutor that they can look up to and relate to makes all the difference.
That in itself is empowering because you're like, oh, well, if she can do it and she looks like me, then, so can I. Yeah, I love how it's like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it.
A successful scholar paying it forward.
It helps out a lot to have all that scholarship money, and I really wanted to give back.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 1,000 colleges and universities nationwide have made the standardized test optional. But if you or your student is interested in preparing for college entrance exams, you can find more information on toptutorsforus.com. The program has nearly 200 tutors nationwide.
Up next, sharing the written word, how a mobile library became a lifeline for people experiencing homelessness.
You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download.
You've probably heard about the Little Free Library. Maybe you even know where one is. It's a wooden box filled with books, encouraging people to take one and leave one.
The goal is to expand access to books, and a group in Portland, Oregon is taking the concept to the streets. They're using a bike to offer people experiencing homelessness a chance to borrow books.
Reporter Anna Katayama explains how Street Books is not only providing library services, but inspiring connections.
Every week, Monday through Friday, if you're in the right place, you'll see librarians with Portland Street Books Library offering those experiencing homelessness a chance to spend time reading.
It's often surprising. It's never boring.
They just help so many people access books that can't.
People like all kinds of books.
Can I have it?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
People love history books. Self-help books are really popular. Brought some Ursula K. Le Guin. Thrillers like James Patterson. There's a lot of great poets on the streets right now.
I can recite Langston Hughes and Emily Dickinson and Robert Frost.
Lee Boatwright survived 10 years living outside, and in that time says she checked out hundreds of books. Street Books librarians became like family.
Yeah. Still got the black lab?
Yeah. How'd you have a good memory?
They're always there to, just help someone out with all sorts of stuff, It's just, wow. I just can't say nothing about it, I feel like I've found a whole family here.
It's already outlived my initial plan for it.
Laura Moulton started Street Books in 2011. What was supposed to be a temporary project Today employs 12 people, has dozens of supporters, and loans out several thousand books a year.
Largely, our mission is to empower people who are living on the streets through access to literature, and also to build a bridge through a shared love of books and to create community.
Unlike a brick and mortar library, you don't need a home address to borrow a book. There are no fees or fines. Patrons are asked to bring the books back, and most do. But if they can't, they're asked to pass the books along to someone else who might enjoy them.
Living outside is hard. It's too hard. And what it does is it makes it a little bit more livable, having something to read. Yeah, it's better than sitting around doing nothing, and it's certainly better than sitting around feeling bad.
Ben Hodgson was one of Laura's first library patrons.
He comes up and he checks out the selection, and there's no P.G. Wodehouse, and so he kind of gets after me for that and says, what kind of librarian are you if there's no P.G. Wodehouse?
I would get about 3 books every week. I'd sit on a park bench down and read them all.
Hodgson says he read some 55 books sitting on a bench in Waterfront Park that first summer, and Laura became a friend.
He was a very faithful patron, and I really began to look forward to seeing him.
Word of the street library spread. Donors stepped forward to offer books, funding, and time. A reference librarian out of UC Berkeley heard about the Portland project and started donating her Saturdays to provide reference services.
Oh, for poems? Okay.
If people are looking for a specific book, the librarians will try to find it.
Yep, that's it.
And have it on the cart the next week.
That community that is created when people come together regularly, greet each other, talk about books, give an update about their lives, all of that is pretty vital.
Hodgson has since moved into housing and works now as a street librarian.
We got this little trilogy here.
Lee also found her way off the streets, but still visits to share poetry she's writing.
What a great program, giving access to books to, people who don't have the capability of getting that access right now, but still want to read too.
Yeah, it also brings people together. They talk about the books, and it really creates a sense of community.
Great point, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, nursing home residents and their families say short staffing puts their well-being at risk.
Everybody keeps coming in the room, telling me somebody's going to do something, and nobody ever comes in.
We examine what some call a staffing crisis and reveal a potential solution with mixed reactions.